Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. Hope you guys are ready for your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness. Because we are 7 weeks into the slow descent into madness, the high stakes game of whack-a-mole that is Illinois Archery season. Now if you guys want to stay up to date on all things Tex Grebner Outdoors or to check out the merch store, you can do that at texgrebneroutdoors.com. If you want to interact with my crippling cyber social anxiety or to stay up to date in real time on all things Tex Grebner Outdoors, you can find me at Tex Grebner Outdoors on Instagram. Now, I hope you guys are going to enjoy this week's episode of Tex Grebner Outdoors Illinois Archery season because life ain't like the pornos and hunting ain't like the TV shows. So much of bow hunting is about being in the right place in the right time and figuring out with trailcraft, as I've said many times, where the deer are going to be traveling. One of the most beautiful things that you can witness as a hunter is what I call frost fire, and that is when it is a frosty morning and you get in before dawn and you get to watch the sun come up and the condensation and the frost get set on fire by the sun's early morning light. I was excited. It was a perfect spot, perfect weather. I was so excited when a forkhorn showed up that I bumped an arrow off my bow when I grabbed it and I had to get another arrow on. Of course, this little forkhorn went exactly where I didn't want him to go, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to get a shot at him. He was 22 yards when I came to anchor and let my arrow fly, and I shot under him. I knew he was going to drop when my string dropped, and I should have just held right on him. But I shot dead center under his vitals and missed him by 4 inches because at 22 yards, the arrow drop would have dropped right into him. But I misjudged the yardage. No blood, clean miss. Wile E. Coyote is my spirit animal. It's important to be able to adapt. So while I wasn't crazy about this, my instincts were telling me that I needed to move this stand. It was a stand that I'd missed the forkhorn out of the other day, and this was kind of a labor of love because it required me taking a pole saw and literally cutting off all the thorns up to 20 feet all the way around this locust tree. Wasn't going to hurt the tree any, but it was going to put me in a much better position to actually get a close trad range shot at this trail. Positivity don't change the facts, and the facts is deer are wild and free, majestic creatures, and they're going to do what they're going to do. It was a frozen morning. It was the kind of November morning that a Midwestern whitetail hunter dreams about. Cold bastard, wind out of the right direction, and it feels like it takes the sun forever to come up. But as soon as I could actually see into the ragweed field, there were deer, and they were moving around, they were pushing, and they were chasing, and I try not to get excited, because excitement tends to let you down. But since I put all the work into this stand, I figured there was a good solid chance that if they are chasing, maybe a doe might get pushed in front of me, or maybe they might end up taking the trail on my left side and giving me a shot when they cross the creek. One of the pain in the ass about solo filming, though, is you basically have to have your camera zoomed all the way out because you don't know what they're going to do. You don't want to have it zoomed in to pixels and then have to actually shift it over and fiddle with it. That's something that I've learned over the years, is just put it in the right direction. Speaking of the right direction, I had deer all over the place except for where I wanted them to be. But with hunting, that's just the way it goes. It's a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole. Now, if you want to show your support for Tex Grebner Outdoors and get a discount on all your tradlife supplies all at the same time, use the code of Tex Grebner in your checkout at threeriversarchery.com. You might as well use the code because you're probably going to be shopping there anyway. Now, if you're looking to basically be able to kill a rhino with a 12 gauge, check out my friends over at Aria Ballistic Engineering. They also have high-end ammunition, custom loaded between 30-06 all the way up to 505 Gibbs. You got to be in the right place at the right time with the right wind with an ideal situation for traditional bow hunting to work out. It was an absolutely beautiful morning with perfect conditions, perfect rutting deer behavior, but all is in vain if the devil pisses in your powder horn. Because normally I would want the animals to come alongside this stand. But lately, they've been coming around the other side of the field through no fault of my own. That's just what they're doing. So I'm going to have to adapt my hunting behavior according to the way that they're actually traveling around the field. So it was kind of a frustrating morning with bucks chasing does literally everywhere except for where I wanted them to be. But at least I was seeing deer, and I was having fun, and I was enjoying the visceral mystery of the hunt. And I did manage to mouse squeak a coyote in, tricking the trickster. I squeaked him in to about 25 yards on the other side of the creek. And he was trying like hell to kill an invisible mouse. The only problem was I didn't have a shooting lane. I really do love this. If nothing else, it's given me a real good reason to stay sober so that I'm up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the wee hours of the morning. But also, I love the thrill of the chase. Setting an ambush and waiting, watching, hoping and praying that it will work out. Because deer are going to do what deer are going to do. And I was super excited about this morning. Got in while it was still dark, wind out of the right direction, fairly new stand, all that excitement. Deer were all over the margins of the field because it was good and cold and the bucks were still chasing and pushing. Couldn't ask for more. It was the type of November morning that a Midwestern whitetail hunter dreams about. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I see two deer. Two little dumb button bucks. But I tell you what, with a stick bow in your hand, if it's legal and you can make a good shot, it's a trophy. And so luckily, I'd picked the right trail. When I set this stand, everything was pretty much perfect. And the button buck came around, and I was blocked from view by the big trees. And when he came out at 15 yards, 12 to 15 yards, I drew my bow and I let my arrow fly. And in the moment of truth, everything else perfect, I shot right over his back. I'd rather have a clean miss than a gut shot deer, even if it is a shot that I should be able to make blindfolded and half drunk. But that all being the same, I stayed put after I got my arrow because I figured if two deer showed up, and I know this is well traveled, then other deer might show up. My pride was wounded, but I was glad that I'd at least clean missed. And not too much long after I got back up into my stand, I heard a rustling behind me. Now normally, as we've discussed, it's a squirrel. But in this case, it wasn't a squirrel. It was 3 deer, 2 yearling fawns, and a doe. And I had a yearling fawn, under my stand, so close that I could have thrown a spear and killed it. But I had misjudged the trails when I set this stand, and it was on my right side, and there was nothing I could do about it. So they moved on across the creek, and I didn't get a second shot today. But it was super exciting. Constantly learning, constantly evolving. And let's face it, if I wasn't honest in the way I depict what goes on and bring you the reality, you'd never get to make fun of my failures. You always want to get your deer with a bow and arrow before the shotgun season starts, especially because after the blaze orange battleground cleans up a little bit, the deer are a lot harder to hunt. Sun come up just like it always does, especially because if the sun doesn't come up, I've got bigger problems to worry about than my whitetail curs. Perfect spot, perfect wind, perfect weather, perfect day, but the hourglasses were turning over and the sand was leaking out, and there was nothing I could do about it. So once the sun got high in the sky and I figured they were bedded down, what the hell? I got nothing to lose. I'm going to throw all the chips in on the dead man's hand to aces and eights. Got down, got barefoot, and walked all the way around to the other side of the creek. That way I could come into the wind and hunt the beds. Controversial decision, but I fully commit to whatever I'm doing. Well, I get around to the last bed spot. Haven't jumped anything out yet, haven't seen anything, and I break a stick. Hell with it. And a 12-pointer stands up. But the wind was in my face and there was cover in the way, and he just started walking. But a deer can walk faster and quieter on four legs than a man can on two. And so I followed him, and I followed as close as I could be quiet to until he got to the creek bank, right around in a circle where I had gone the opposite way. And I thought sure that he was going to lay down under the bluff of the creek. And so I crept up just in time to see him standing on the other side. He didn't bed down. He just kept walking. And there he was, walking out of my life. But to tell you the truth, it was super exciting, and it almost worked. So I got out, went and got my boots, and got headed out to the farm and came back before dusk. The 11th hourglass, 45 minutes where the daylight left. Climb up into the same stand, nothing to lose, resigned to whatever happens in the high-stakes game of whack-a-mole. Just in the last 10 minutes of legal light, this forkhorn comes in. Not a care in the world. So this is going to sound weird, but it always sucks when you've got a deer behind your stand and you want him to walk around and give you a shot. But am I the only one that literally tries to pretend like I'm not there? Don't make eye contact. Pretend that I myself do not exist. Willing the deer to not notice me. Praying to whatever gods that will listen to distract this deer long enough to bring it under me where I can get a shot at it. And I'm thinking, can I get swung around and get this shot off and make it accurate and catch it on film? but the sand is still dropping out of that hourglass, and the sun's still dropping. And by the time that that deer walked out where I could get a shot at it, it was very questionable as to the legality of the life. You can be mad at me if you want, but all I have is my integrity. So because this little bastard of a forkhorn ran out the clock to the buzzer on me, he got to walk away. Because I'd rather feel good about my failures than criminal in my successes. I've got to feel that that buck, the big one, is going to live through the gun seasons. Because he didn't get that big by letting himself get shot at. That's just how it worked out this week. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Life ain't like the pornos, hunting ain't like the TV shows, and by God, Wile E. Coyote's my spirit animal. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at threeriversarchery.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement, you good cops out there, and those of you serving in the military ready to die for freedom anywhere. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.